I mean, it's truly grassroots, like pun intended. You know, we're literally in the grass sitting in the grass.
You put a turquoise table in your yard, and now thousands of people have a table in their yard across the country. How did this all start?
Well, that wasn't the plan because it's a little odd to have a bright turquoise picnic table in your front yard, right? Tony and I have lived here about 12 years and we have 4 children, and life was busy and full, but I felt like I was going really wide and not very deep, meaning I was in the minivan more than I was at the kitchen table. I also noticed that my kids weren't growing up in the same way that I am, and that's not, I don't want to replicate my complete childhood, but
You're like, you don't have to like the same music that I like.
although please, because it makes the minivan driving a whole lot more fun. But I noticed that they didn't have this sense of place like I did. We didn't know about every third house, if I'm honest. And so it was kind of a culmination of this busy lifestyle, this new form of communication, and wanting to create a sense of place for my kids. And so all that was going on in my brain. And one day I was hosting a barbecue and I needed extra seating. And so I ordered this table, but when it arrived, I had this sort of aha moment. And I thought, what if we put this picnic table in the front yard and just continued to do our normal activities? Pizza, homework, glitter, you know, birthday parties, all of those things. But what if we were to do them in a more inviting place and maybe spark some curiosity and invite others to join us? And that's what happened. I put it out here, painted it nifty turquoise because I liked the name.
I do too.
I mean, it's kind of like nail polish, you know? And I was like, that was the rocket science that went into nifty turquoise.
And you didn't know how long your relationship with this table was going to become, so good that you picked a color that you liked.
It's a good thing, right? Like the mauve table does not have the same, you know, sort of stickiness.
So your kids came out here.
Kids came out, we started meeting neighbors, and it really, it was almost immediate. That it just created this sense of spontaneous welcome. And we didn't have to plan big parties. I didn't have to clean, you know, the inside. And so all of those excuses that sort of keep us from inviting people over or welcoming people into our homes were gone. And so it just became this simple, easy place to offer hospitality. I invited some friends over, you know, probably the week after I'd put the table out front. And I just thought I should probably explain a little bit why there's this turquoise picnic table in our front yard. And they loved the idea because they were like, it's so simple. We didn't have to prepare. We all brought our own mugs of coffee. Somebody was on their way to work. Someone else stopped in on their way to work out. And what I didn't expect was for them to pull out their phones and order a table of their own. Wow. Right then and there. They were like, can we get a turquoise table too? And they're like moving at the speed of light. And I'm like, what? You sure you can have a turquoise table? Yes. Now there are thousands, like you said, of turquoise tables in all 50 states. And as of yesterday, 14 countries.
What have you learned about the power of community through all this?
You know, here's the thing. My personal story, you know, was just the excuses. It needs to be clean, or I'd have to invite people over. But by the time I, you know, think of how the night might go or the event might go, I'm exhausted, and then I end up just not having anybody over, right?
Yes, it's like when you make plans on Monday and then Friday comes along and you're like, what have
You're
I
like,
done?
that sounded like a good idea at the time, but all I want is yoga pants. And so what I've learned is when we take all of those excuses away, the longing that we all have to belong and still be face to face and have conversation, this is an incredibly easy space to do that. But somebody has to go first. And so that's my encouragement to people. It's a little bit crazy, you know, but it's easy, and I went first. And so if I can do it and meet my neighbors and have these great relationships, now so can you.
And so can that neighbor down there. Even on the way over here, we all got lost because there were so many turquoise tables to choose from. And I will tell you, it did feel like a symbol of openness and warm-heartedness. As I drove by, I was like, well, I could accidentally knock on that door and they'd be okay with it.
They would. It has become a symbol of hospitality and just kindness and welcome. So really, we've adopted the mantra of front yard people. And so that just means we want to build community.
I think I'm now a front yard person. I like the sound of that. What does that mean?
Front yard people. These are the people who say, I'm all in, and I just want to know my neighbors and build community in the most simple place of all, right where I live. Now, this is my front yard, so this is my version of the story. Do you have to have a front yard? Of course not.
Have you ever come out here and been surprised by some of the guests you found at the table?
Oh, absolutely. You know, all the time. In fact, early on, Tony, my husband, was a little, you know, he was like, well, you know, what if strangers show up?
Yes.
And I'm like, but hospitality means love of stranger.
Yeah.
And so we're going to welcome them, and we do. I've never felt in danger, and I always caution, you know, that.
What you just said led me to a part of your book that I really like. Page 115, you start this chapter with, there are no strangers here, only friends you have not met yet. William Butler Yeats. That's great.
Right? That quote just resonated with me, and that, you know, when we take time to show up and we consider that, you know, you might be a stranger today, or I might not know you today, but after a couple of cups of coffee and a few interactions, we're no longer strangers.
Right, and we probably have a lot in common. So what are people going to find in this book? Because this is dense with a lot of really special messages about community.
It is, and so, but it's an easy read too.
Yeah.
In fact, my son, who just left for college, said, oh, you wrote a picture book, Mom. And so, you know, I was like, well, you know, yes. But there are lots of photographs. But then I get the privilege of sharing other people's stories. I hope that it's a good initiation to an encouragement to just open up your door and show up. Is really, and don't be afraid. We see people disappear behind garage doors, and they go up and then they go down. But the person on the other side of those walls, who happens to live like right there, is longing for connection. And so it will be met 99.9% of the time with just great welcome.
Yeah.
And so put the fears behind.
Exactly.
Just know if a girl can put a turquoise table in her front yard, you can go knock on a door and say hello. The message is all the same, is you are welcome here, you belong. Sit, slow down just a moment, and connect with someone.
Well, thanks for making us feel so welcome. Everybody just pull up a seat. Let's just hang out.
And let's do, and that's what, it's contagious, obviously. But what keeps people at the table is that vulnerability, and that comes with great listening.
Yeah, and probably great snacks too, right?
Good stuff.
Always.
Always help.
Let's get some cookies and some more coffee and
Exactly.
invite everybody to sit down.
Always.
Thank you so much.